the previous takings that you could not hear my voice. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hope you guys had a good start to the year 2026. My health, my situation in terms of wealth, a lot of different things is going pretty well. Hopefully you guys can hear me and we can get started with this live video stream. Okay. So this is a response to my take on the recent demonstrations and protests against immigration customs enforcement. As you know, there has been massive demonstrations, including a few recently here in Las Vegas regarding the takedown of the protester or the so-called activist Renne Good, who was trying to interfere with ICE agents essentially doing their operation several days ago. Okay, now I'm not going to get into the specifics of whether or not who is right or wrong. Okay, obviously you are interfering with law enforcement. Obviously it's something that I would have not done. Okay, but let's get to the background of how we got to this point, where we are now, and where we are headed. Okay, because this has been decades in the making. We didn't come out here just recently. Okay. So on my channel, I've been very critical of many issues, particularly immigration of over 10 years, the Federal Reserve, since the start of my YouTube channel. Obviously, the Federal Reserve is the root cause of a lot of these problems, right? The fractional reserve banking system, the buildup of Wall Street, these multinational corporations, these massive lobbyists. And this later on led to the changing of our immigration policy in the 1960s. Of course, this was a cultural shift in the 1960s. Okay, so the way you saw these women out there, a lot of this has its pump up from the 1960s. And we can go back to the counterculture, and one element of that was the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, which was a turning point for American immigration policy. It wasn't just affected the demographics of the United States. It also had an impact on wages, the ability to get a job, because of birthright citizenship. We've had large amounts of legal and illegal arrivals, which affected government support programs when it comes to public schools, language, culture, congestion, demand for housing, whether it comes to dollars being sent abroad. A lot of these factors that arose from the Hart-Celler Act. And of course, many other immigration policies that came afterwards, okay? So that's one of the things you've got to really keep in mind. Now, obviously we're seeing the effects of it. Now, do I believe that our main problems in our country is because of foreign arrivals? No, they certainly do have an effect. But we know that the top issue should be the purpose of why they are here. The reason why they are here, the reason why they are arriving in this country is not as for a specific purpose to benefit Americans. Now, you saw basically when I tried to debate Mehdi Hassan in the show Jubilee about several months ago, I told him that we should be upset at the lobbyists, the elites, the powers that be that got us into this mess. This flow of unauthorized immigration was not just obviously something that literally happened within the last few years. This has been going on for decades. This has been going on for a very long period of time. And remember, I've talked about this many times in my channel. This is a global plan. It's not just going on here in Las Vegas. It's going on. Remember about a year and a half ago, I did a road trip from here to Calgary up in Alberta. You see the massive demographic change? That's part of the plan. Remember when I've talked to you about Europe England, France, Germany, all these countries. And they're trying to do this in Northeast Asia too. It's all part of the plan. Okay, now, am I trying to point out to think that America should be a monoracial country? No. I'm not trying to point that out. Certainly it's a different standard here versus London, Paris, Tokyo. However, I don't believe in a plan. Well, first of all, they don't tell us where these demographic changes are going to go and why they're doing it. But also, I don't believe that we should demonize European Americans. I'm not European descent. But my parents came to a country that mainly became successful because it was built on Western values by European Americans, particularly Anglo-Saxon Nordics, Protestant values. That's what really happened. That's what made it successful. It's not a society that the Amerindians could have done successfully. And to think that we can just somehow eradicate them and not have any consequences is absurd. You look at these hotel casino themes behind me. Caesar's Palace, Bellagio, Venetian, Excalibur, the list goes on. Those are predominantly European themed hotels because it's part of our culture. Now, I'm not trying to point out that they're superior, that I prefer them or anything. But again, you can see the psychological manipulation tactic that they are doing to pass on their, obviously, agenda. Because we know these elites are criminals. They're dirty, disgusting scum people who want to destroy all the great things that we have. It's about control. You look at a lot of different examples that we see here in Las Vegas that's responsible for the open borders. You can look back at Harry Reid. He was against birthright citizenship more than 30 years ago. And now he realized these arrivals, unauthorized immigrants, were benefiting his political machine, tied with the Culinary Union. The Culinary Union is one of the largest offenders of illegal aliens. I think the current administration should do some investigation of what's going on here. This is one of the things you've got to really understand. Not to mention all these, I'm not surprised if these casinos are hiring them, construction is certainly hiring them. They all have responsibility. We are in this mess because of them. And sure, the Republican Party wants it because of their corporate donors, but we all know why the Democrat Party wants it. Because think about it this way. People like me have left the blue states, and it's going on and on and on. Not to mention these women who are demonstrating, these women who tend to vote Democrat, they're not having enough kids. They're having fewer kids than others. So they need new arrivals to fill in the deficits, to fill in the holes. And why is that important? Because it's about congressional representation, electoral college seats. All of that matters. So this is why it leads me to my point. Because when this had a jump start in the 1960s, immigration and modern women are two sides of the same coin. They're working together. Now, it's advertised as liberation. It's advertised as all these nice buzzwords, but we all know you're not allowed to think independently. It's a form of control. These people who are demonstrating are foot soldiers of the elites to basically carry on their agenda. It's not an organic movement, ladies and gentlemen. These are the same people who are pushing the transgender. Again, it's one thing you have preferences, but what I'm trying to point out, it's part of a greater agenda. It's part of the whole cultural trend they're trying to do. If you want to live a lifestyle that was dominant 70, 80 years ago, it's taboo. They want to be the farthest as they can from a society that we lived several decades ago. Okay, even from the 1990s. And I know that a lot of great things that we had in this country has been lost. And how do I know that? Well, there's an old saying that family knows best. When my great-grandmother along with a couple of other my relatives, came to the United States in the early 1960s. And they, again, some of them were able to come before Hart-Celler. Keep that in mind, okay? So I don't think it would have stopped all non-European immigration. But again, my great-grandmother told me that America was at its amazing, perhaps in its prime, in the early 1960s. And I believe her. And America essentially, we can see from the stats, a lot of different things, because there's an old saying that family knows best, bottom line. Now let's just go back to really what I wanted to talk about in this video, which is the incident that occurred. Now, obviously, she was disobeying, and we know that the people who are fighting back against this are disproportionately white women. Okay, this tells you that essentially, in order to push their agendas, they need to hijack, especially white women, to push on their agendas. Now, it's not just white women. Now, to be fair, women who come from all over the world can change. They can become modernized in this part of the world. And we've seen, obviously, a lot of changes among black women, but we've seen how modern women have changed, especially white women, in the last 30, 40 years. Okay, because, like, remember, a disproportionate number of these protesters are white women. And we're going to get into that, how this is. Because a lot of this is essentially social engineering. They want to feel guilty. Okay? And the thing about that is that they have this belief system to think that from when they are children, and really when you think about it, it's accountability of children that they want to have, that the system is stacked against you, men are letting you down, they have not so pleasant views of men overall. Some of them are very unpleasant. Okay. And this has been, where does it come from? Because it's not organic. It's essentially, it doesn't come from the sky. For decades, it's been pushed by the mass media, right? So when you have a handful of networks for decades, and you have 6 corporations controlling most of the media, probably about 90%, magazines, television, newspapers, film, a lot of different things, music. And of course, the content you get from social media comes from the establishment legacy media. It's not an accident. At least in social media, I have the ability to express different points of view. That's where it comes from. This is how these women start to evolve and change. And remember, women, the way they receive information from the media is different than men. We think differently. And they're more likely to go with the crowd than we are. That's just how it is. We're not the same. And this is part of where their flawed ideology is they're picking and choosing where biological differences actually matter. And to be fair, it's coming from academia too. Whether it's the public schools, whether it is a lot of different factors, the university system, all these majors, all these studies that they do, this is not organic. It's not. It's essentially manipulative tactics that they are effectively trying to do. Because we all know it comes from a source, okay? But they don't want to tell you that. And so a lot of these women, they go to these universities, they get into these majors, and the kinds of majors that often doesn't lead to a attractive employment prospect, okay? They'll say science, they'll say medicine, engineering, or not engineering, law and things like that. But in reality, that's a tiny fraction. Okay. A lot of the majors they get a very modernized view of how the world would work. Their job prospects are not ending up what they hope to be. They're in so much, not just credit card debt, but student loan debt, because if they borrow let's say $60,000, they have to end up paying $120,000, $180,000. They really start to become in the situation that they're in. And not to mention this, remember, the sense of entitlement, all these cultural influences create, privileges. They're essentially the most demanding, high expectation group of people than any type of people that have ever existed in the history of the world. I mean, they have so much comfort and so much conveniences that we've ever had. And yet they are still unhappy. And their views of how male and female relations in terms of mating has changed as well. We've embraced hookup culture, where essentially people do pumps and dumps, where they're attracted to certain types of men. Their lifestyle is essentially getting attention, validation, going to nightlife venues every other weekend. Think about it. They get pumped and dumped. They do a lot of essentially hooking up, and then they just disappear when the date goes well. Really, that's this cultural narrative that we have created. And worst of all, they don't want a lot of accountability, okay? What does that mean? So when things don't go as well in their process, and they get ran through in their 20s, they start blaming others, especially other men. This is why they push abortion and birth control and all these other measures. It's mainly because of the fact that they don't want accountability. And I'm not going to get into the legality of it. Sure, there's reasonable cases of, for an example, assault, whether it is essentially life of a person. I get that. However, but then again, their whole system is based on we're always right, others are always to blame. The system that we have is completely dysfunctional. Any form of tradition has to be dismantled. That's what's going on. And so, again, these are the same people who don't just advocate for pro-female causes. They advocate for essentially other causes that are within the same greater plan. So climate change, pro-Palestine, taxing the super rich, okay? And again, I understand that there are some tax havens. We can get that to another video. But the point is that they're all being geared as foot soldiers to push a certain agenda. And their desire to nurture has been replaced by pets, or essentially, I've even seen a protest sign that's related to that, by the way. Or they're trying to nurture for other causes, such as, like I've told you before. And it doesn't matter if these illegal aliens have serious criminal records, they've committed serious crimes, like we look at the Lake and Rileys and so forth. Basically, that's what they're trained to do. They're foot soldiers, they're tools. They don't seem to have essentially a future that they're pleased with. Their future is, okay, well, they failed to start a family. Their life is just what? Debt, consumption, work until you're 80 years old. So that is designed so it can be easily manipulative, okay? That's pretty much what we have. And that's despite the fact, not just all the privileges, but we can look at a lot of different factors that women have privileges. You can look at the legal system, especially family courts, criminal justice, small business grants, government programs, employer hiring, all these things that definitely make a difference. But once again, modern women and immigration, they're two sides of the same coin. And this has really created a culture that's very, very recent in human history, that's been rarely tried. It's very much, a lot of people perceive it as upside down. Family formations are down, rates of dating, rates of intercourse. You can see how their lifestyle goes, the things they like to do, the way they perceive things, the way they talk, the way they dress. I mean, a lot of these women, when they talk, it sounds like an alarm is taking off. Think about it. You see the impacts on social life, workplaces. A lot of men are not comfortable working with these kinds of women. And all of this is resulting is just fewer and fewer people starting families, creating kind of like this, not necessarily loneliness, but people are just alone, where they don't have any partnership. It's easily controlled and manipulative. And hence why you see, for an example, a lot of men are sick of it and they're resorting to passport bros. In fact, the ICE agent that shot Renne, well, his wife is from the Philippines. This has been the cultural reality that we've created. They're just basically angry. They're depressed. The rate of antidepressants have gone up. Now, as men, we ask ourselves, well, what do we do about it? Are we just going to let this thing play out? Are we just going to have protests after protests, complaining after complaining, double standards after double standards? So, like, not just in terms of legal issues, but I mean, if, let's say, a woman cheats on a guy, that's not taboo, but if a man cheats on a woman, it's okay. Men are expected to be traditional, but women are not. Men are expected to self-improve, but women are not. Even though it's easier on average for women to cheat on a man, especially if she's under 30. This is the kind of reality that we're living in, right? They're just going to keep complaining, moaning, taking to the streets. And what is this going to lead to? What are we getting out of this as men? Because we are paying most of the taxes. We are doing most of the diligent and more vital work, mining, drilling, forestry, fishing, farming, engineering. I mean, heck, I could go on, even to look at the jobs behind me. A lot of the many important positions in these resorts, whether it's gaming management, executives, whether it is the people who bought land, build these hotels, the maintenance, security, transportation, all these different things, they're predominantly done by men. So we're expected to protect, to provide, and serve, but women are giving us less and less and less, and they're giving more and more headaches. That's really the thing. So as a result, many of us are asking ourselves, well, what do we do from this? Because this thing could just literally escalate out of control. There's going to be crashes. There's people fearing this could be another George Floyd incident. Wait until the warmer months come along. I mean, it's still kind of chilly outside. It's like 30 degrees, 35 degrees out here. Not very pleasant weather. I mean, more pleasant than Minneapolis, I would say. However, the thing is that as summer months come on, there's probably going to be more riots. There's going to be more civil unrest. There's just going to be more of these angry women crying and moaning. Think about it. And how are we going to support them? What do these people do for a living? How do they contribute? Not to mention, they're just going to keep blaming us for all the problems. They're going to likely have severe financial difficulties. Their other choice is just to work until they're 80 years old. They're going to get burnt out. They're probably going to demand more government programs and services. They're probably going to raise taxes for essentially us men. So how is this going to work? Well, I think, believe it or not, the solution is to just men for us to come together and realize, hey, maybe we don't want to live with you women. I thought about running for president in 2028 and saying, hey, listen, break up the country and let's separate from these modern women. What do you have to give to us? Seriously. And I bring these issues up. A lot of you try to push me around and insult me personally because you have no other arguments about the societal issues that I talk about. Let's separate from women. No more sexism, no more misogyny, no more patriarchy. And guess what? We can just separate on our own. You can build your own society. You can be so caring to unauthorized immigrants or whatever you want to call them. Get us out of our lives. We don't have to keep blaming for all the problems that we have. Keep getting the blame. And how are we going to separate? That's a very excellent question because, again, we've got land 40 miles out in the desert. Men can just separate, build their own society. No more family courts, no more double standards, no more of this so-called false accusations. We can just separate on our own. But unfortunately, like I said, what does it take for men to finally stand up, grow some balls, and call this stuff out? Frankly, I think if men really had balls right now, I think men who are predominantly like 90% of truck drivers should start storming the major cities, stop delivering goods, let their privileged economic system that's given to women contract, and they're going to see what reality is. They're going to have to finally respect men, and things are going to have to change. Truck drivers, like kind of what they did in Canada with the convoy, they can just storm the major cities. Why don't they do that? That's what it's going to have to take for things to change. Men are going to have to fight back. They're going to have to go on strike. The problem is, again, one thing, men are just too afraid, maybe. Or maybe they don't see it how problematic as at least I do, or many others do. But we can't let this thing go on. I'm just saying, just separate from us. I mean, what do you have that you have to offer us? What do you need us for? These are the same women who believe in equality but expect men like me to pay for dates. Bull. And if I'm going on a date with you, I'm going to take you to the damn Tuscany casino and get you a $5 burger. I'm not going to take you to some fancy-ass restaurant. Excuse me. And if I want to get laid, I can just go down the block and pay like $70, $150 in a street corner and get action. At least that's a good thing about living here in Vegas. At least it's a good thing that a lot of these women didn't go to these universities and manipulate their minds. We have one of the lowest percentages of college grads in the country. Think about it. If white women only voted in Las Vegas, it would still go red. Think about it. But remember, the bottom line is they're tools. They're manipulative morons. Okay? That's what it's all about. They're foot soldiers. They're trying to push an agenda. They failed in life. They went against their biology, and they're being used to manipulate us and push us around, and we're tired of it. We've got to speak out against this garbage. Don't let political correctness and all this other nonsense get in your way. We've got to fight back, folks. And not just this issue, a lot of other issues like housing. I bought land recently in Henderson. I'm looking to build a duplex. We've got to compete in terms of quality, prices, a lot of different factors. It's not just me about making a living. And besides, why would I want to work for somebody in this job market? I like to employ myself. That's true, strong and independence, along with investing your money. Think about it. But they're not telling these women that. That's the fundamental difference. Basically, folks, it was the job of these ICE agents to enforce federal immigration law. Just like the fact that, well, a cop pulls you over for running a red light. He has to. You put people's lives in danger. Now, we can say, well, traffic lights don't work well. They should fix them. We should replace them with roundabouts. But we have to have traffic laws. And we have to have immigration laws. We all have to have standards for something. Just like I have to get accepted to become a tenant of this apartment building. They background check me. They check my income. A lot of different factors. My history of renting. Just like I have standards when I go to a grocery store, certain number of food that I can eat and what kind of food that goes in my body. I don't want to have high fructose corn syrup going in my body. My body, my choice. My wallet, my choice. And this country should have the right to say, hey, you know what? We want to bring immigrants that are going to be a net benefit to our country, not just serving special interests. You're a net taxpayer contributor. You have English proficiency. You have no criminal record. I mean, how hard does it have to be to get these people to realize what's going on? Unbelievable. A bunch of wackos. They're freaks. Folks, just their culture, just to look at them, the way they talk, the way they look, the way they dress, they don't fit with us. Okay? They're doing the job of what Congress appointed them to do. They're doing the job. Congress approved these laws. If you don't like it, vote in the next election and change the laws. Okay? And guess what? The people with their democratic process in the last election voted to do that. There was a reason why we had these election results. One of the reasons was because we had an out-of-control border in the previous administration. And not just the previous one, but the last several ones, going back to the 1960s. We didn't solve the problem. Okay? When are people going to get this through their heads? Unbelievable. But yeah, it's a cultural bubble, folks. And they don't just hate the MAGA, Trump, Republicans. They hate everyone else but themselves. They don't like the conservative libertarian types who don't support Trump. They don't like the independents. Like, I guess you can put Bill Maher or Pierce Morgan in the mix. They don't like even non-Democrat progressive activists. They don't like any of them, like the Jimmy Dores of the world. They hate them all but themselves. It's a cartel. It's a gang. It's a bubble. It's a vicious, disgusting system. They hate us. They want us to suffer. They want us dead. Don't you remember several months ago with the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And I'm not saying I'm a Charlie Kirk worshiper. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm telling you, their reaction tells you everything. When are people going to realize this? And they think they're going to win? Bring it on. What do these people do to contribute? Just a useless office job? People like us are the ones with the firearms. They're the ones who are working the more critical jobs, the farming, the ranching, the drilling, the transporting. Think about it. They need us more than we need them. Frankly, that's one of the reasons why they don't separate from us. Think about it. They may argue that all the cities where they protest have all the GDP numbers. Well, guess what? Especially when they say California has the 4th, 5th largest economy in the world. Well, guess what? Where are they producing most of the food, the energy, the manufactured goods? Think about it. And all these angry, miserable women are so privileged, are so entitled, they're not willing to thank anybody else about all the contributions that we have done. So I want to let you guys know, what do you think of this? It's time for us to fight back. It's time for us to get out there, be critical. and see exactly what's going on. Let me actually kind of go through the chats. If you guys want to message something, we can kind of see what's going on. See all these personal questions. What am I doing with dating life? Oh my gosh. Now, if a man is not in a relationship by 30, oh, he's a problem too. Yeah. First of all, do you know exactly what men go through? Unbelievable. See, and again, it's just a lot of these people, they try to, I don't know, they try to make things very personal. Nadia Inns Garcia, she commented many, many times. I lost my job of 3 years in August 24. Invader hit the work truck driving on the freeway. Life comes at you fast. Okay. So basically, do you guys have any questions or comments? Anything that you guys want to talk about? Because I'm going to be wrapping it up very, very soon. Yeah. It's unbelievable, folks. It's just absolutely unbelievable. These people are lunatics. There's just no way. And by the way, the protest turnout here in Las Vegas was just pretty dismal compared to a comparable city, metropolitan area like Portland, Minneapolis, Denver. But we have to take care of this problem. There's no question about it. How do you define a country when you just have all this uncontrolled immigration? How do you define a country? I mean, sure, you can argue we need the cheap labor. There's a handful of positions that Americans just won't do. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to be picking tomatoes outside for $20 an hour. I'm not going to do it. They're just not. And if the wages go up so much, then, well, guess what? What's going to happen is these costs of these services and products are going to be very, very high. Why do you think we had the Bracero program? Yeah. What do you guys think about this lonely, miserable, young white women? Because when you really think about it, it's all based on guilt. That white women are feeling guilty. They, on average, succeed better than others because they're taking it from others. They're suppressing others. Just like the idea that why, for an example, men outperform women because men are oppressing women. In other words, when you have San Jose that has the largest pay gap of any major city across the United States, that tells you that there's more sexism going on than any other major city across the country. Has nothing to do with the tech jobs, right? Even though many of these tech companies engage in quotas and all these other programs. It's absolutely absurd, folks. It's absolutely absurd. It's just rampant double standards, and people gotta stand up to this crap. What is it gonna have to take? I mean, we've got these elections coming up very soon. Talk to legislative candidates who are gonna actually make a difference. They're gonna call this stuff out. And if this state doesn't do it, try other states. Because of this, all these incidents that I see from illegal aliens, and I'm not saying they cause a higher crime rate, but the thing is, though, is that when you have, for an example, one person I've known for about 10 years, where his son was killed by a previously deported illegal alien, well, then that proves is why we need ICE, why we cannot support sanctuary cities, and why we need border security. It's very simple. You can't assume that every apple is great. Unbelievable. Anybody wants to make a comment about what we just talked about? Because certainly we've got a serious cultural issue that we've got. It's unbelievable, folks. Nothing going on. Okay. Well, that will do it for this edition. If you guys like what I have to say, please share, spread this video, subscribe. We thank you for your time because we're living in very, very uncertain times. Cyrus, please save the day. We said don't leave. And okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think a lot of the people chat, but what happened was a lot of these messages, they just pretty much disappear. For some odd reason, I don't know what the hell is wrong with YouTube. I really don't know what to say. I mean, I try to make videos on Rumble, but I barely get any views. And you come to think about it. Yeah. It's not a busy scene out here on the Strip, I can tell you that. It's pretty sad. They have to depend on events, conventions, sports, concerts to bring people in. It's like, no. Have I tried TikTok? Yeah, I've thought about it, but it's just too much social media presence. I just don't want to really talk about it. Yeah, these comments, they just come and go. I don't know what the hell's wrong. Oh, of course, YouTube may delete this video. There's really no question about it. I mean, they've taken down so many of my videos, these bastards. Unbelievable. Screw Google. To hell with them. And by the way, you know, you talked about an Indian guy. The person who runs Google is an Indian guy. Think about it. Of course, yeah, we have to talk about it. Things should not be taboo to talk about it. Absolutely. Now, America, I don't know if it's completely game over. I think we're going to have at least a generation or two of problems because it's going to take a while to undo the damage. It's hard for me to see that America is just going to be a complete hell on earth situation. I don't know about that. I mean, and if it does, it's probably going to be the whole world. But are things going to get, or something's going to get worse? Absolutely. Overall, obviously, you know, people are waking up. There are some things that are moving in the right direction. Because this country, a lot of things have been going in a wrong direction since the 1960s, when you think about it. These are the same lunatics that think a good family structure is taboo. It's absolutely absurd. They have these values around the world, and they have them among other different species. It's insane that we're in this situation right now. Unbelievable. Well, what I think is going to get worse, I would probably say that it's because of past bad decisions. So I've told you earlier, when we're going to see a lot of these middle-aged women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, obviously, it's going to create a lot of problems. It's going to create miserable people. It's going to cause a lot of burnout. Maybe we see an increase in homelessness or just people that need to be taken care of that get burnt out. Now, some things are getting better. I guess you could say rents are coming down. Some food prices are coming down. We've seen improvements in how food is actually produced because a lot of these poisons and chemicals are being, ingredients are being rolled down. And of course, things are going in the other direction in terms of immigration. I mean, that's why they're fighting it, because it's been moving into a different direction. There's no question about it. Yeah. Now, as far as the situation in Iran is concerned, look, my heart goes to the people. Hopefully they can get a different form of government. It's been a disaster there since 1979. Absolutely. He's been horrific. I haven't heard of anything from my relatives that live in Tehran. So that's one of the things that you have to keep in mind. Hopefully they're safe. I haven't heard anything from WhatsApp or anything like that. I think they cut off all internet. So it's just pretty, it's uncertain what's going to happen. Unbelievable. I mean, heck, you should take these miserable women who are protesters, you should take them to Tehran, take them to Afghanistan, take them to Saudi Arabia. They'll see what reality truly is. Unbelievable. Now, you talked about your rent coming down. Well, it is a step in the right direction. I don't know where you live, however, but if rents do come down, or if they don't come down, as percentage of income, it does come down. So when you really think about it, yeah, and I think the Masha has a legacy to what we have now. However, when you think about it, Austin's rents have been plunging. Their home prices have been coming down a lot. And now, relative to incomes, Austin has one of the most affordable rents in the country. And rents have been coming down here in Las Vegas for 3 years. The obvious factor is it's easier to build. It's easier to get permits. I mean, the reason why the red states, for one reason they get more electoral votes, is it's easier to get permits, expand the supply of housing, prices don't go up as much. Not to mention, the red states have higher birth rates, they have lower taxes, and it attracts people. It's fair and simple when you think about it. That's just the true reality of it. And they don't want to admit that what they're supporting is not working. Now, yeah, you can make a lot of arguments that there's no difference between the two parties. In some aspects, yes. In Washington, D.C., yes. However, at the state and local level, there is a significant difference. Obviously. Are there problems in red states? Absolutely. But again, I didn't have to pay a huge capital gains tax living here versus if I would have stayed in Laguna Niguel. That's just the reality of it all. So should we take up government housing contracts and just maximize it instead of trying to enroach our own beliefs? That's a very good question. I don't know how to answer that. I just don't know how to answer. I have to look into that. I don't want to sound like a dummy, but I just can't answer that. I'm sorry. Anybody has any other questions of what's going on? Do you think you had more opportunities in Laguna Niguel rather than leaving? Now, first of all, if you don't know where Laguna Niguel is, by the way, it's a city in South Orange County, California, about halfway between Los Angeles and San Diego. It's one of the most expensive home prices in the country. It's one of the most affluent cities in California, very well kept. Many argue this is one of the greatest climates in the world. Obviously, now, of course, they have more gloomy days and they have more humidity in the summer. However, keep in mind that the primary reason I moved is because I moved here to be a real estate developer. It's been about 2 decades in the making, and I finally bought my first property. And I know that not only physically there's more land, but it's easier to build permits, and there's tax havens. Absolutely. Yeah, build our way to California. It's a lot harder, man. It's just so complex. Like I tell a lot of people, when you're in Las Vegas, you're literally a drop in the pond. But in California, you're a drop in the lake. The system is so complex. It's so difficult to navigate. Forget about it. I mean, I could have done better in Laguna Niguel because I could have lived with my mom and saved in housing costs. I understand that. But nevertheless, it's like, I kind of want to live on my own, and I have been since I was 24. And at the same age that my father, he moved from Texas at SMU to Burbank and lived on his own. Missed out on the Vegas. Look, what opportunity are you talking about? Really, when you think about it. The heydays of Vegas was really in the 90s and 2000s. And I was really too young to do anything, to be honest with you. The recovery we had from the financial crisis was a joke. Certainly, you can argue that our rent prices haven't gone up as much relative to other parts of the country. And certainly, we've seen, we didn't really become like a Rust Belt economy. Yeah, bought property 8 years ago. It's, like I said, it's really hard to say. I mean, it's not just really the cost, it's about whether I would have qualified, but also I just personally don't like the properties. I'm just not a fan of HOA, cul-de-sac, car-dependent areas, garages eating up the front, cookie-cutter tract homes, gated neighborhoods. I just don't like the stuff they build out here. That's the problem. I mean, I would buy something for development, really. I wouldn't buy it just to really live in it. So, yeah. Oh, I want to take a break. I think I spoke too much, so. Yeah, I moved to Las Vegas mainly to become a real estate developer. I basically saw the opportunity. I didn't really come here to really change things the way they are. I moved here to basically add something better. So Vegas is one of the most car-dependent metro areas in the country. And it has one of the smallest lot sizes for single-family homes. So how does that make sense? Our homes are so close together, but yet we still need a car to do everything. The automobile makes sense, really, if you have a home with a very large backyard. But it doesn't matter. Even if you live in a luxury high-rise, you still can be very car-dependent. Okay, well, I've already answered your question, so I'm not going to answer it again about the real estate market. I mean, I could have bought a house and had a lower mortgage payment, significantly less than my rent. I totally get the point, but it was just hard to know whether this housing market was going to peak or correct, because obviously when they raised the interest rate in late 2010s, I obviously didn't, I thought the market was going to come down because that's what they did in the mid 2000s. So if I want to make money, where should I go? I'm not a precious metals person. I'm not too much of a crypto person. I would just say get in the index funds, really, and just buy at the next correction. That's just what I did over a decade ago, pretty much, yeah. Okay, well, thanks. I appreciate the support. Yeah. There's no question about it, yeah. Does anybody know the temperature out here? Because it's still kind of chilly here. Index fund, yeah, that's what I do. Unless if you do your own research and you find a company, good earnings, low PE ratio. Well, I mean, look, if you want a reliable, low-risk investment, that's what I tell people to do. Simple. It's just really insane what this country has come to. Honestly, I don't even think 70% of Americans really believe in this nonsense. Honestly. I think companies are just going to have to stand up and stop hiring these insane freaks, to be honest with you. By the way, the stock market futures are down, believe it or not. So we'll see how this month of January holds. Something kind of does tell me, I think there's just so much overhype and fear that the stock market's going to crash. These are the same people that have been spewing this stuff for 20 years now. Many of them are always bullish in precious metals. Now, I understand the metals have gone up a lot since 2020, but they barely moved in the 2010s. So, like I said, a lot of these doom and gloom people, you kind of want to stay away from them. Yeah. Yep. Metals are going up, catching up with inflation. Well, really, we're not having high inflation like we did. The inflation rate is coming down, although I don't really believe the inflation rate either. But again, like I said, rent, certain food items. I mean, Smart and Final just had an advertisement that eggs are 99 cents. So remember that thing was like $7 about a year ago or something? So really the inflation is beef, which we've seen those prices go up and down. But also we look at the inflation when it comes to insurance cost. I will be talking about car insurance in another video. It's a serious problem out here. Not to mention, we look at where else? Insurance. Yeah, and also, yeah, health insurance is a serious, unless if they do something about it, I'm not sure. But nevertheless, and there's now only a few markets across the country that we're seeing home prices go up. Okay, well, thanks for the appreciation. I really appreciate it, yeah. So I think it's just precious metals are just having a speculative boom. They're being seen as a safe haven. I just recommend the ETFs. I just don't see why anybody would actually get the gold and the actual physical silver. I just don't really see that, to be honest with you. I don't see like there's going to be a major Armageddon event, something like that's going to happen. I just don't see that. So. Yeah. So I just want to stay on topic on the protests. Does anybody have any questions regarding the protests, demonstrators, anything like that before I go? Anybody? Oh. Well, we'll do a video about something else another time, so. Well, it is. It's better on other things, but, I mean, it's on the news. I mean, I've been talking about these cultural trends. I mean, it's not really the protests themselves. It's just the culture we live in, and we have to deal with it every other day. You know, of course I have an issue with modern women, but one of the issues I have is, first of all, I'd rather meet women in a normal place like here than in some nightlife venue. And I would rather, for an example, wish the women would treat men better and get partners that are going to benefit with them long term instead of deadbeats. The guys that give them drama and chaos. Well, yeah, that's the whole purpose about this video. It's about modern women. It's not about protests themselves. That's really the thing. You go dates on these women, they show up and they make some excuse and they just walk away. A lot of these women are just damaged. They're not trained how to be wife material. That's the thing. More men have to call this stuff out. All it is just women want the abilities and the resources that a man can do, the privileges of being a woman, and the responsibility of being a child. That's all it is. And remember, it's these powerful, wealthy elites that are backing them up. That's why we have this system. The same people who control the media, who control essentially the academia, the courts, the corporations, everything. They're all pushing this baloney narrative. You have to call them out. Try not to do business with them. Try not to watch their content. Try to start your own companies. Try to elect people that don't align with this message. We can fight this thing. It's very simple. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just... And I'm not scared. Seriously. I'm willing to put my life on the risk. Unbelievable. What a sick, twisted world we live in. All right. Any other last-minute comments? If I don't get any comments, I will sign off in about 20 seconds. I think I'm running out of battery. Oh, it's always been easy for women to hook up, all throughout history. Even 20 years ago. People just want to blame all the things on the apps. No, these things have been going on for a very long period of time. Really. Now. Well, why would they want to make a connection? Well, the answer is very simple. Because, again, when they get ran through, it's not the same as us. And the other thing is that, like I said, the things they want from us typically come from long-term commitment than the other way around. Like, a lot of men, if they're able to get laid and able to get their housework, that's really all that we care about, to be honest with you. I'm an only child. I want to reproduce. There's really no question about it. But the thing is that if it's not likely going to come out here, folks, it's better to just go overseas. I mean, heck, just live here part-time and then just go back. Raise your children there. This country is going to be kind of a dystopic world. When, like I said, you're going to see a lot of women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s. All they have is just work, debt, consume, nothing else. A lot of them are going to be miserable. So, but I think when it gets pretty widespread, it's going to be very common knowledge now. Just like 20 years ago, when you would tell people that college is a ripoff, people would think, oh my gosh, they wouldn't believe you. Or the poisons in our food, they wouldn't believe you. Think about it. But now this is going to be common knowledge. So it's going to be pretty scary. A lot of playgrounds are going to be empty. At least the schools are not going to be overcrowded. Think about it. But this isn't just like a religious point of view that I get accused of. This is just the way nature works. Now, look, I'm not saying it's impossible here. Like last month, I had this woman approach me, come to my house. I didn't buy her anything. Gave her some freebies like food and rides. She came to my house, cooked, cleaned, knocked her up like 3 times. We're still messaging each other. She was this Latina woman, younger than me, from El Paso. I mean, I guess that's what it really is, because El Paso is not very Americanized. It's kind of isolated, and it's more related to Juarez when you think about it. So that's really my point. I mean, I've had better success with Latina and Asian women, not just domestically, but I showed you how essentially when I went to the Philippines, I mean, I was getting laid and getting hookups and dates left and right. I mean, it was such a amazing experience. I mean, speaking of Filipino women, listen, there's this Filipino woman who is probably right now serving drinks at the casino floor at the Rio Hotel about 9 months ago. She came to my house. I knocked her up. I mean, even the ones that live here, they're still a better deal. I'm telling you. It's not just white men, like the ICE agent. It's even Iranian men are doing this. A lot of Iranian men are sick of Iranian women. Armenian men. Did you see the debate with Anna Kasparian with Pearl? Oh my gosh, just the way Anna acts. At least she calls out the Democrats like Newsom, but again, it's just a lot of Middle Eastern men who are in this country. They've been dating outside. They've been going for Asian and Hispanic women. Because men like me, obviously the Persian men, have the money, we have the height, almost like white men. I mean, we're really like white people anyway, when you think about it. But I've had a lot of difficulty, obviously, dating and getting laid by white women. Now, sure, part of it is because there are not that many of them compared to what used to be here and much of the country. But, man, white women, you just talk to them, they just don't feel any sense of attraction. And this is my point. Like, multiculturalism, it has its issues, and that's one of the issues I talk about. There's no question about it. But I know a lot of Persian men, they hook up with Latino women. And I believe, some of them go with Thai women, Vietnamese women. I've been with Vietnamese many times. I mean, it's funny because when you think about it, if the Hart-Celler Act of 1965 didn't get passed and I was living in this country, I would have gotten far less bedroom action, dates than I would have. Which is one of the reasons why I probably wouldn't want to move to the South or other parts of the country. Because what are you left with? White women and black women? And I'm not trying to degrade all black women, but we know overall they're just not for us. I think you know what I'm talking about. And there's also a difference between black women that are in America versus in other parts of the world. Because I've heard black women in Latin America and Africa, they're a better quality than they are here in America. Especially, and not just their attitudes, but I mean in terms of their weight, their entitlement, and like I said, most of the problems that we're seeing with modern Western women in America are coming, almost all of it is coming from white and black women. Think about it. I mean, yes, it can infiltrate Filipinas and women of Mexican descent, but not as much. Yeah, they many have with Philippine children. Yeah, I get it. But then here's the problem, though. If more white men keep doing this, they're more likely to get to the white minority stage. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, if you whites don't want to be in a minority, you're going to have to fix your women. Okay? Now, there's still plenty of white women who are having lots of kids. And they're starting families while they're young. But those are becoming very difficult to find. And they're not easy to find, especially in this part of the country. Maybe in the heartland, in the South. In fact, I heard rumors that white births are going up in many parts of the country. So think about it. Yeah. They're actually going up in Mississippi. It's funny because Mississippi was one of the least likely states to be affected by demographic change. The white births are going up, the black births are going down. So I guess that's how you can kind of preserve the way things are. Absolutely. But they've dropped sharply here in Las Vegas in the last several decades. It's just really scary. I don't know what to tell you, man. I just really don't. It's just, I mean, it's just a shocking drop. And really, this is not really diversity. This is just some kind of using other groups to go ahead and, displace other people. Because that's all it's. But part of the reason why this is happening is because a lot of white men are basically hooking up with these Filipino women. and other Asian women. We have a lot of mixed race people here in Las Vegas. We have one of the highest rates in the country, along with Seattle and the Bay Area, because it's obvious, similar demographics. Yeah, it's just the way it is. So, and look, I might have a kid with a Filipina or a Vietnamese woman, but the kid's gonna look like you, they're gonna be as tall as you. All these things definitely matter. You know, and I kind of do want to pass on, you know. Now, if it's a Latino woman, especially if it's not so much Amerindian, all those things definitely matter. So, all right, everybody, I got to get going. I'm getting tired. So, thank you guys so much. Great pleasure. I've got other things I got to do. So, stay tuned. Keep me posted. Thank you guys so much. Okay, what did you... Okay, one last question. I'll take one last question from Bazook Slots. What do you got to say? Anybody? Okay, ask your question. Ask your question. Go ahead. I'm giving you another 10 seconds. Ask your question or I'll have to sign out. Come on, I'm not the president, so I mean, it's not like my time is so valuable. Would you rather a Latina from North LA or another? Do you mean like Los Angeles, or what do you mean? Like, I mean, the Latinas that come from, oh, okay. Yeah, that's one of the issues. I've noticed that the Latinas, or just Hispanic people in general that live out here, are not overall the same that come from Mexico and other parts of Latin America. That's what I really have noticed. I mean, there were some Cubans that were actually like, because we have this rooftop clubhouse in this apartment building, and essentially there were some Cuban people playing pool, and they were not like all the other Hispanic groups. It was just the way they are, the way they talked. So I've noticed that the Latinos are not the same. They're not as upscale, you know, the way their presentation and everything, as Latinos that are in Latin America, especially the ones that come and visit. We get a good number of Latinos that come and visit here during Hispanic Heritage Month. And my gosh, the women are so friendly, chill, laid back. Just like the women from especially Southeast Asia. It's unbelievable. It's sad to see what's happened to women in this part of the world. Unbelievable. And Mexico, I heard, is not as great as other parts of Latin America. Because Mexico kind of has been Americanized. But, I mean, you're not going to get a shocking difference if you were just to drive to Mexicali. But when you really go down well into, like, I would say, Costa Rica, Colombia, Peru, you'll really, really see, yeah, Spanish lighter-skinned women. I definitely agree. I totally agree. There's no question about it, yeah. And we're kind of racially, ethnically more similar, too. Yeah. So that's just one of the things you got to keep in mind. But even studies have shown that Hispanic and Asian women are more likely to date outside of their race than black and white women. You know. Because I think white women have higher expectations. And plus, they're taller, too. It's funny because when I went to the American Renaissance Conference, if you don't know the American Renaissance, it's one of those, they call it a hate group, but what it really is, it's one of the leading advocacy organizations for European Americans in this country, run by Jared Taylor. And when I went to that conference, I was like the only non-European descent guy in the conference. And I didn't feel so tall. I mean, I'm 5'11", but I did not feel as tall. I was like, yeah, if I wanted to live in a society like that, it would be difficult for me to attract women because those women are no chance in hell they would ever want to date me. Those kinds of women that are, it's because it's really interesting because it's not all white women are like this. Some white women are often clearly the opposite. And this is the funny thing. The real division in America is within white women, with their politics, their culture, their lifestyle. Like the white women that vote in the Boston area, in the Bay Area of California, the white women that vote, a lot of these places versus Wyoming and Mississippi, there's such a contrast. But you don't see such contrast with all the other groups culturally. What kinds of women do I think? Just listen, as a woman, it's just like you find her attractive. Yeah, my preferences are Hispanic and Asian women, yeah. I mean, Persian women, the problem is there's not that many here in Las Vegas, but also if it's going to be a Persian one, it's probably going to be like a family introduction or whatever. Now, actually, I know this sounds kind of gross, but my mom has recommended that I date some of my distant relatives, like second, third cousins. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. You know that people in that part of the world do that, but I don't know about that. It's just, but yeah, Hispanic, Hispanic and Asian women. My issue with women, like I said, is just their lifestyle. Whether they're easy to meet, are they approachable? They simple to get along. I mean, that's why for women, it's not that difficult to get a relationship. And it's also, all these things to date Sarah. What are you talking about? Oh my gosh. No, Sarah is my cousin from my mom's sister. No, I'm talking about like my grandma's cousin who has a daughter who's like 15 years younger than me. That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's just, who is this Bizuk Slots guy, by the way? Who are you? I probably know who you are. Unbelievable. It's just, I think I know your name. Yeah. Oh, I know who you are. I know who you are. Yeah. I've known you since the 90s, and we've been to many parties together, and yeah. We've been to many hangouts, and I think you're the one that basically your parents had an issue in the year like 2000. They split up. So I think I know who you're talking about, yeah. Yeah, I've known you in the 90s, yeah. Yeah. I was born in 92, so. It's just, it's just, man, I don't know. This country's going to be screwed. I mean, for a long time. It's just biology, man. And we can't even accept nature. It's like you're asking this area to become a natural landscape and climate that you get in Seattle. They're not the same, folks. Get over it. All right, man. Yeah, I know who you are, man. I know who you are. All right. Well, I got to get going. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. It's been over 80. It's about 80 minutes now. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I should do more live streams. Definitely. Yeah. Okay, listen, if you want to talk to me, that's fine. But I would rather not go on live stream because my phone is dying out and I don't have my I don't have battery. Here, let me give you my number, and you can give me a call, okay? Are you ready? It's 949-482-9490. If you can write that down, 949-482-9490. So 949, the Orange County area code, 482-9490. Here, I can just write it down. Did you get it already? Because I can just write it down somewhere. You can kind of see. Dude, nobody's gonna bother me, dude. It's just I've posted my phone number in public. Yeah. All right. I gotta get going. I got a lot of things I gotta do. But I am free tomorrow. I'm not working tomorrow. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I'll see you